What's that all about?
Yeah, so we get that question a lot. We're trying to make sure that we're really clear about what the game is. They're like, oh, it's like Left 4 Dead. Oh, it's like this or that. And so to kind of set the record straight, we're going back to the Resident Evil 2 and 3 timeline, right? This is where the game takes place. But the twist is you're the bad guys. You're playing as Umbrella. And the idea is that, you know, you're the Umbrella security service, right? So you're these guys that have had special training from Umbrella. You know what the T-virus is. You know what lickers are. You know what the Hunter is, tyrants, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you're in Raccoon City to cover up Umbrella's involvement in the outbreak, right? And kill survivors. So you're not there to survive. You're not there trying to, like, you know, manage your ammo and run around and hide for cover. You're there to destroy bodies. And simultaneously, the U.S. government has quarantined the city. They've sent in their own special operatives to do the exact opposite, right? To save people and figure out what's going on.
Exactly.
So that's where you get your basic TPS gameplay, but it's in Resident Evil, in the Resident Evil universe. So you've got zombies, tyrants, lickers, hunters, and they're just indiscriminately attacking everyone, and we're calling that three-corner conflicts, right? So that three-corner conflict gameplay is what the game is designed around. So all the abilities, skills, mechanics have this three-corner conflict idea in mind, where either you're dealing with these creatures or you're dealing with military, you know, tactical combat.
Right. It's
a team-based shooter. So we're taking all the sort of, you know, the typical TPS rules and kind of throwing them out the window and kind of creating something new.
It seems really cool with the, I mean, with all the monsters and various Umbrella creations thrown into the mix.
You know, and people, that sort of era of Resident Evil is very nostalgic for everybody, myself included, right? You know, when people first found, you know, tyrants and lickers and hunters and all this kind of stuff. So going back in time to that era of Resident Evil with, you know, the big bad Umbrella Corporation is certainly nostalgic, but you're looking at it from a new perspective. You're looking at it from a new viewpoint, and also as the bad guys, right? So we're putting a little bit more of the grit, violence, evilness back in Resident Evil, and so the visuals are a little bit darker, a little grimier. There's blood splattering everywhere. So we think people get a kick out of that too.
I saw the render of the liquor that we put up. We were able to put up a render of the liquor. And
that's Ogawa-san, man.
It's crazy.
One of our lead art guys in the Japan office. He worked on that thing for a couple of weeks. And,
really?
Wow. It looks nasty. So that's the first of a lot more new characters. So the liquor's new here at E3. We didn't have that at Captivate. And we've got a lot more enemies. Like I said, it takes place during the Resident Evil 2-3 timeline. You're going to cross paths with characters that you know. You're going to cross paths with enemies that everybody's familiar with. And you know, you can choose to sort of leave Resident Evil history intact and kind of walk the line, or you could take a different path and kill Leon Kennedy and kind of redefine Resident Evil history, you know, for all time.
Here's my question then. Like, I mean, as you have the ability to sort of meet and interact with all the characters you know and love from Resident Evil, are you going to be able, I mean, obviously different things are happening, but are you actually going to be able to have multiple endings and sort of change the future of what happens?
I can't go too into depth on that right now. My PR team will kill me. But we are going to talk about. The game does have a really interesting, unique way that it kind of comes to a close, and choices that you get to make. And like I said, you know, purists who want to walk the line, who want to keep everything intact, can certainly do that. And if you want to be a little bit more radical, going on a limb, which is, you know, we're going out on a limb on a lot of different places with this game, right? And so, you know, we're opening up, like I said, the story to that as well, and decisions that you might want to make as a gamer. And so, like I said, there's purists and people who want to keep it in line, and there's people who just want to kill everybody in front of them, and you can totally do that.
I think this is really, this is pretty interesting for Capcom. I mean, I don't know in our history if we've had a game where you play as the bad guys for a franchise we've already established, where you've always sort of hated them. Yeah. And now we're them. Now we get to see it from their side.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't think of any other game that has done that at Capcom.
You're right. I can't really either offhand. But we think that, you know, playing as these Umbrella guys, like I said, that fiction lends itself really well to the gameplay. You know, a lot of people, one of the things that the Resident Evil franchise takes a lot of flack for and always has is like, why can't I move and shoot at the same time? Like I have to stop, aim my weapon, turn around, run away, aim my weapon again. You know, and that works great in more of a survival horror type of game. But for a run and gun shooter, you know, these, like I said, these guys have a special training. They know what's up. They can do CQC. They can use their sidearm to fire 360. They can move and shoot at the same time.
Yeah.
They cut through zombies like butter. You know, like I said, they're not there to survive. They're there to destroy bodies. And like, you know, the USS guys, I mean, our first exposure to the USS was Hunk, right?
Yeah.
And back in Resident Evil 2 days. And I think, you know, most people, at least in North America, or at least, you know, friends of mine and people I know, and myself included, fell in love with Hunk. Everybody loves, you know, Hunk and the USS and that kind of stuff. And we thought that history was really cool. It was just a really cool place to start to create like a team-based sort of tactical shooter.
Cool.
And as far as your point about the bad guys, like, it's kind of fun to be the bad guy.
It is, yeah. That's what I was saying. Like, this is a really cool, interesting perspective that we haven't really seen before, and like, so now I have to ask, since you brought it up, is there any chance we might see someone like Hunk make an appearance?
I can say you'll see Leon and Claire. They're in our E3 demo out there.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're seeing a lot of enemies from old school Resident Evil history. There are a lot more in store that I'm not allowed to talk about right now, but we do not intend to disappoint.
Very cool. So, that said, tell us more about the new characters. I heard we talked a little bit about it earlier on in the day. We had Mike Lunn in here.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And he talked a little bit about it. He was mostly talking about Resident Evil 4 HD and Code Veronica HD, but I think Four Eyes and Lupo were a couple. So tell us more about who they are and what their role is.
Yeah, so the USS, the Umbrella Security Service team, has 6 members, or and this particular team of the USS has 6 members, and they're all their own unique class, their own unique soldier type. And the 6 characters are Lupo. She's the leader. She's kind of an assault class, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Four Eyes, who's another new character we're announcing at E3. She's the field scientist. So she's going to be able to program BOWs, tell tyrants who to attack on the field. She has pheromone grenades she can throw and tell zombies where to go swarm and attack.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, really cool. And then Bertha is our medic. So she can cure infection. She can induce infection, things like that. Vector is our recon guy. He's got camouflage, silent stuff. He's kind of a sneaky dude. The ninja guy with the hood.
Yeah.
Spectre is the surveillance type. So he's got extra mini-map information. He can share that with the team. He's got different vision modes, things like that. We've got, who else am I leaving out? We've got Lupo, Vector, Spectre, Four Eyes, Lupo, Four Eyes, Bertha, Spectre, Vector. Oh, Beltway. What am I talking about?
Beltway.
Demolitions guy.
Yeah.
He blows stuff up, right? So he's the big dude. He's got the blast vest, sets mines, uses, you know, big shotguns.
We saw a little bit of that in the trailer, I think.
Yeah, he blew up one of the Raccoon City Police Department guys, which that explosion looks real. I mean, it's like you're watching that thing, and first time I saw it, I was like, is this real? That trailer, by the way, is made by Blur Studios, and they're radical. They're radical. So anyway, so those are the 6 characters with their 6 classes. They all have their own kind of passive and active abilities. But the interesting thing is this game is 4-player co-op, right? So you can only have 4 of those classes in game at any given time, right? So it's like if you don't have a medic and you get infected, you're kind of screwed.
There's a certain amount of balance.
Yeah, if you don't have a surveillance guy, your mini-map information is limited. You know, you're surveying the battlefield is limited. So, you know, kind of depending on how you want to play, whether you're playing 1, 2, 3, 4-player co-op, you kind of got to decide, you know, what skills that you want to use, what skills, you know, you might want to use for yourself or help your buddies out with. I think the infection mechanic is a good example of that. That's another new thing we're talking about at E3. Is it's the first time you can get infected with the T-virus. So there's a variety of ways you can get infected, but if you get bit by a zombie or a licker strangles you, you can actually get infected. And when you get infected, you don't just turn into a zombie. A number of things happen. So first thing is your life gauge will turn into this blue timer and start counting down, right? And while it's doing that, you get a number of advantages, right? So zombies are going to ignore you. They're not going to pay attention to you because they think you're an infected zombie. The other thing that happens is your damage model on your character changes, so you don't take any damage on your chest, arms, legs, anything like that, only to the head. So you can make awesome use of this in versus mode, right? So you can get intentionally infected again, like by a zombie. Go in to the enemy base, mess them up, run out. If you got a medic, they can heal you. take the flag back to the base.
So you can get rid of the infection after you've caused a bunch of damage.
So if you've got an antiviral spray, you can get rid of the infection. If you've got a medic, they can cure your infection. If you don't, and that timer counts all the way down, boom, you turn into a fully AI-controlled zombie, and you attack your teammates until somebody kills you. And you can't respawn until something happens to your zombie. But if somebody puts a bullet in your brain before you turn into a zombie, you can instantly respawn.
Right.
So, you know.
That's cool. That's really neat. I didn't know that. So is that something that we've shown off a little bit here that you can see in the single player?
Yeah. So
I should say the co-op.
Yeah. So in the co-op build that we've got out there that people have been lined up for all day, that we're showing off at E3, the infection.
I think they can see a little bit of it in the corner.
Yeah,
here.
I don't know
it's a top-down
what
camera.
people online can see, but we've got a big 4-player stage outside, and we've had this huge line along the booth all day long. And people have been really positive about it. They've been really excited about it. That infection mechanic is in there. There's a thing that we had at Captivate, but we've kind of added to the system a little bit called Blood Frenzy. Okay. So if you take certain damage types or a certain threshold of damage, you'll start bleeding and your guts will be hanging out. And zombies will pay attention to that and they'll come swarm you, right? Well, the same thing goes for your enemies, right? So if you're, shoot a Spec Ops dude and he starts bleeding, you don't even have to worry if he runs for cover because the zombies are going to go swarm his ass. So, again, this kind of 3-corner conflict idea, everything is designed around this. We got some of the weapons tuned and biased more towards activating this blood frenzy mode and making people bleed and things like that. So depending on what weapon choices you make, you can say, oh, I'm going to be a blood frenzy whore and just like make everybody bleed and then run away and let the zombies finish them off. And we actually score all this stuff in versus mode too. So you get different scores, different multiplayer, experience points for killing people in these different ways.
Right. So I don't know how much you can talk about that, but can you tell us a little bit about the weapons and if there's upgrades or anything like that in the scoring within
so I mean the choices that you have available to you are the class that you pick up front and then the passive abilities that come along with that, your active skill, what skill you're going to be using with that character, and then your weapon choices. And there's all the basic weapon genres, right? We got submachine guns, assault rifles, sniper rifles, heavy weapons, shotguns, special weapons. I mean, it wouldn't be a Resident Evil game without herbs and special weapons, right? I think we got a grenade launcher in the build right now, so classic, Resident Evil. And each of those genres have a few weapons in them. And you, as you go through the campaign mode, you're investing in a class, you're investing in the skill that you're using, you're gaining experience points. You can use all that stuff towards upgrading your class, your skill, unlocking new weapons, and all that stuff carries over into versus mode as well, right? So if you're upgrading your Spectre all the way through campaign mode, when you go into versus mode, you'll have a Spectre available to you that's kind of upgraded. And
does it work the other way too?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you played multiplayer for a while, bring it all into the co-op campaign?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this.
Yeah, very cool.
I'm a multiplayer whore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out there, kill a bunch of guys, and then be buff in the campaign.
And all this 3-corner conflict stuff I'm talking about too carries over into multiplayer too, right? Where it's like it's not just gonna be a team of guys with guns versus another team of guys with guns,
right?
In a multiplayer map. I mean, there will be 2 teams with guns in a multiplayer map, but there's gonna be random enemies spawning in the environment, attacking whoever they want, and the AI is programmed in such a way that it makes multiplayer more interesting. For example, like a hunter is kind of the alpha enemy, right? It's going to find the strongest opponent on the battlefield and attack them no matter what team they're on, right? So whoever's got the most kill streak or the most points in the map, the hunters are going after that guy.
That's kind of cool and scary at the same
Lickers,
time.
for example, they're going to pick up stragglers, right? Zombies are going to kind of inadvertently attack whoever's in front of them. But again, we have all these ingredients that we're just sort of dumping into the game. And we still got a lot of tuning, a lot of polish to do, a lot of implementation to do, like with other skills and things that we're still working on. But with the build that we've got here at E3, like I said, I think people are getting a taste of all these different ingredients, and then kind of see what we got cooking, right? And they're kind of seeing that, oh, this is going to be kind of a new type of TPS experience. It's not just take cover, shoot a gun. There's dangers that come from the side, from behind you. Different enemy AI types, not just military, me versus you and shooting at each other. So, and then all carries over into versus mode. And we have our own unique versus modes and rules for Resident Evil in the Resident Evil universe. So we're excited about that, which I don't think I'm allowed to talk about just yet.
I don't know. Well, here's something I can ask you about. Well, I know I can ask you anything. Whether you can answer it or not, Who knows?
Yeah, you can ask anything you want. I might no comment you.
So, I mean, the various multiplayer maps that have the enemies on them, is this going to be something that you can expect to be pretty, what's the word I'm looking for, just unstable? I mean, how often are you going to see something appear? Are you going to be able to figure it out eventually, or is it going to be something that's just always random and always going to keep you on your toes?
Yeah, so it's not going to be a scripted type of situation, if that's what you're asking, right? Where it's just always the same stuff, always in the same place, always, no. So actually, Slant 6, who's our developer that we're working with in Vancouver, they're using their Big Brain engine, their own proprietary engine that they're using to build this game.
I didn't know that.
And they've created something that we're calling the AI Overseer.
Okay.
Which is this like Eye of Sauron AI Overseer thing that looks at all the conditions of the battlefield and decides, it's kind of like the Dungeon Master.
Right.
It sort of decides like where it wants to put what enemy types and where it wants to spawn things based on what's going on in the map. So we expect, all the enemy spawning and action, whether it be in campaign or versus mode, to be extremely dynamic.
So it's happening not just in multiplayer, but in the campaign too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there will be scripted events, in campaign and story mode, and as you go through it. But again, like how many zombies are on screen, where the liquor's coming from, who the hunter's after, how many of those spawn, all that kind of stuff. Will be, as dynamic as we can possibly make it.
That's crazy. Yeah. I didn't know that. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
That sounds really different. Like, I can't think of anything that's really sort of any game that's like had that smartness. I don't know if you have any additional thoughts, Greg. You've sort of just been sitting.
Yeah. I'm just listening and trying not to ask anything bad. No, I was mostly curious about the weapons. I noticed that you can select weapons, but I guess each class has a default as well, or?
Yeah, and that's another thing. Choosing different classes will give you immediate access to different subsets of the weapons, right? So, you may not have immediate access to the sniper rifle if you're the medic class or whatever, but you can upgrade and unlock all weapons for all classes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
That's part of the upgrade path. So again, we want there to be lots of replayability, lots of sort of player progression and reward for either playing multiplayer or versus mode or the campaign mode. The last thing you said was made me think of something. I don't know if the Japanese dev teams are going to get mad at me for saying this, but a totally quick side note is that this is the first time that lickers have actually been fully AI-controlled enemies. They've always been like 100% scripted in past games where they're on a path and they walk on the wall and they do what they're going to do regardless of what you do. So now they're like 100% AI, jumping from wall to ceiling and around. And actually, if you get grappled by a licker and you win the grapple and you cut his tongue off, that changes their AI behavior. So they don't have a tongue to attack you anymore. So they're going to come try to melee you and run around and scurry a little bit more and be a little bit more aggressive.
That's kind of creepy.
Anyway, total side note. I know we were talking
really
about weapons. But we've got a lot of classic RE, mainstay weapons. I mean, even one of the environments we've got in the game is the Kendo gun shop, right, from back in the day. I can't talk about maybe some of the weapons you might find in there, but
shotgun, maybe.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of cool different weapons, a lot of cool skills, and again, each of the classes having their own sort of reasons to play them. And to create different teams, right? You're only going to have 4 of those classes in the game at any given time. So we think that's going to really make the kind of balance of gameplay and the depth of the system like really interesting and kind of lots of different ways to play, specifically versus mode, right? Like people love versus mode. This is the first time we're doing a proper versus mode in a Resident Evil game, right? Definitely. So we're really excited about that.
Well, I guess one of the things that I keep thinking about now, we talked a little bit about the AI and the overseer, as it were, sort of seeing everything and adjusting the game.
Yeah.
What's the difficulty going to be like? Is there multiple difficulties that we can choose from, or is it going to be? It's going
to be kind of a dynamic thing. It's not going to be like
constantly
easy mode,
challenging you.
Extra mega hard mode, European hard mode, like that kind of stuff. But it will be, like I said, there is a sort of overseer. If it's everybody's dying a lot and it'll adjust. So it's supposed to be, like I said, a pretty dynamic thing. But we'll talk more about that in depth, later on as we get closer to release.
Really cool. So, chat, while we're doing this, we'll go ahead and let you guys ask questions. So if you're watching right now, ask questions in the chat, and we'll try to answer them. So one of the first ones up here, you probably can't talk about it, but they're asking about unlockable characters for online. So is there going to be anything additional that you can talk about?
Will Leon be playable online?
Leon's
Maybe as an unlockable. Yeah, I see that right there. So I cannot speak directly to that right now, although it would be really cool if Leon was playable, especially online. We certainly don't intend to disappoint folks. You can kill Leon, I can say that. But yes, Leon, Claire, other characters I can't talk about are in the game, and we'll have more news as far as which characters are playable and not playable, and online, offline. Well, they're everything's online.
Yeah.
In Raccoon City. So
I guess that brings up another question while we wait for some questions to come through. Is the online pretty much hop in, hop out? I mean, is it easy to start up a game and then hop in?
Yeah, so there's a really easy to use party system that you can use in campaign mode as well as the versus mode. So you can stick with your friends and then add people, to randoms if you want. Obviously, you can drop out anytime you want. But as far as campaign goes,
my wife's having her baby.
Yeah,
Close.
exactly. In campaign mode, you will have to either get to a checkpoint or something. If you want to add another person to your party, you're going to have to. But there's a pretty extensive checkpoint and save system, and we're trying to make it as easy and smooth as possible. No headache, sort of co-op system, so to speak. I know past Resident Evil games and other things that I won't necessarily talk about directly had headache. Co-op stuff. We certainly tend to fix a lot of those issues.
Oh, well, cool. Very cool. So, I guess another thing, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it at all. Well, actually, before I ask that question, here's a good one. Will BOWs or any of the monsters be playable at all in the game?
So, they won't be directly playable. However, you'll have all kinds of ways to interact with them. Control them, evade them, attack them, kill them, all the dangers that go along with the different BOWs. So, specifically, there will be kind of like a standard standard kind of player package things that you can do, like grabbing a zombie, using it as a shield. But Four Eyes, the field scientist, is going to have a lot of skills that have to do with controlling BOWs. Like I said, using pheromone grenades, having them go like swarm the enemy base in versus mode, or whatever it is. So you will be able to kind of use them as a tool, but you won't be able to necessarily directly take
full
control of and play as a hunter, for example.
So here's another question. Not so much a question, it was just a giant statement. They want tofu. They want tofu back.
I want tofu. I love tofu, yeah.
We asked Takaneka-san about that.
Yeah.
If we could get tofu in Revelations, and I think he was a little bit thrown back by it. He's like, "Do people really like tofu?" And we're like,
this is actually to be honest, is a conversation that we have in the Japan office a lot. I'm like, that tofu mode would be awesome,
Yeah.
Everybody in Japan seems to think that was just some quirky, weird thing that nobody cared about. But in the U.S., we love it, right?
Yeah,
tofu.
Once you unlock that and you run around, he was just a hitbox, right?
I can't say anything concrete about tofu mode, but I agree. I think tofu mode would be radical.
Yeah.
So I'm the tofu mode champion. If I can get it done, I'll get it done. So.
All right. Well, here's to hoping.
Yeah.
So. One of the other questions that came up was talking about a little bit about the variety in the environments that we're going to see. So both in the game itself. I mean, we're in Raccoon City, but it seems like the look and feel of what Raccoon City would have been like in HD back in the day.
Yeah,
has really come to life.
Yeah, going from these flat 2D matte paintings, from back in the day to full on 3D environments has been a lot of fun. And some of the environments that we have in the build here at E3 are the Raccoon City Police Department, the Kendo Gun Shop, which I talked about earlier, the Raccoon City Hospital is in there. There's going to be a lot of other familiar environments that I can't talk about, but it's been a blast, turning that stuff into fully blown 3D environments, and just sort of up in the ante in terms of action on screen. Like, there's a whole lot of density now. It's not just like one zombie walking around in front of the Raccoon City Police Department. It's like 25 zombies spawning on screen at once, and so we're trying to keep a really high level of density in the game. So you'll see that in versus mode too. It's not just like, oh, one dude across the map like taking cover. There's going to be just like stuff everywhere, right? But we want to give you enough tools to deal with all that so that you're never frustrated. You always feel like you're a badass, right?
Awesome. So
that got a little off topic. I know we were talking about environments, but
we're answering. So this one comes from Urban Maniac. He was asking, when you're infected, can you infect other characters?
You cannot infect other characters until you turn into a full-on zombie. So once you turn into a full-on zombie, you will go aggressively attack really your own team right now.
But it's not controlled by you.
It's not controlled by you at that point, right?
Do you still get to watch from the camera?
Oh yeah, you get to watch. So your respawn timer is long. It depends if you're playing campaign mode or versus mode, right? So and we're still tuning how exactly it's going to work. We still got a lot of testing to do, but basically, in versus mode, you'll have a shorter timer, or excuse me, a longer timer to respawn if somebody doesn't deal with either killing you or you heal yourself, or cure yourself. You kind of have to sit there and watch your zombie version of you wreak havoc on your buddies. But if it's campaign mode, basically you got to sit there and watch your zombie run around crazy until it's dead, right? Or somebody kills it, or they get to another checkpoint or whatever it is. So you don't control it directly, but that zombie is going to immediately turn on your team.
I'll just be screaming at him like, please kill me, kill me, please.
Yeah. And actually, the opposite is true too. As soon as you turn into a zombie, your team can treat you just like a zombie and like grab you and use you as a shield, right? Shoot your arms off, right? All that kind of stuff. So
if they're really mean to you, I suppose.
I did that a second ago out there. It was like somebody got infected, turned into a zombie on my team. I grabbed them,
turned him into a shield.
Yep, turn him into a meat shield.
All right, Mike. It looks like we're up for time, but is there anything that you'd want to talk about? One last thing that you'd want to shout out for Raccoon City to the rest of the audience?
I mean, this obviously we're taking a lot of liberties with the franchise in this game, right? We're going full TPS. We got 4-player co-op. We've got versus mode. You're playing as the bad guys. We got an infection mechanic. We're messing with the storyline, and so and when we realize that can be a very polarizing position, right? There's a lot of purists out there that just want old school, Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 remade on every hardware console cycle, and we have products, for them as well. But we think there's, enough of a cross section of just, RE fans in general and people who love a good action game that are really going to love Raccoon City, and we think we have enough unique gameplay and kind of interesting new things to show that makes the gameplay kind of fresh. That we really hope people will give it a shot and kind of welcome it with open arms. So awesome. we think it's cool, and we hope you check it out.
Sounds great. So, last two questions: when's it coming out, and when can we expect to see more?
It's coming out this winter. It's going to be on PS3, 360, and PC, and you will see more sooner than later. I mean, we're going to have stuff probably hitting online this month. We're going to be at Comic-Con. We're going to be at all the big events all the way up until launch. So,
sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Mike.
Thanks. Oh, sorry. Thanks for having me. And thank you guys for tuning in.
All right. Hey, guys, we'll be back in just a few minutes with Bobby to talk about Asura's Wrath.
Thanks, Rig.
Thanks, man.